So in this video, we're going to be reviewing the concepts of domain and range. Now they can ask this in a variety of different ways that you will see for your STAR test as well, but we're going to hit the highlights and then we'll look at some EOC sample questions in class and kind of go from there. So the first one, basic vocabulary. So domain, you need to recognize that domain are all the X values in a table, in points, in a map, any of those things. Domain are your X values, and range are your Y values. Domain is your X values, and range are your Y values. So X and Y there. Okay? Pretty simple. So here are some types of questions you might see. These are like the super easy ones you might see about domain and range. It says, given the points 1, 3, 5, 8, 2, 7, and 8, 12, what is the domain of this set? Okay, so domain are the X values, right? So automatically, look in here, I can automatically cross off D, because I know that domain means X's, and no Y's are allowed. So I'm starting to eliminate some answer choices here. So I know that the domain are the X's, and if I have a point, this is X and this is Y. So I'm only going to be looking at these X values here. 1, 5, 2, and 8. Well, they're going to list them from least to greatest. So when I say 1, 5, 2, and 8, does 3, 7, 8, and 12? Nope. I mean, 8 matches, but not the rest, so no good. Okay? B says 1, 2, 5, and 8. Those are the exact same numbers. They're just put in order from least to greatest, so that looks pretty good. And then C says it goes from 1 to 8. Well, that kind of makes sense because it starts at 1 and it ends at 8, but is it every number between 1 and 8? Like, is 1.5 included? Is 4 included? No, it just says 1, 2, 5, and 8. So this is not correct. This would be what you want here. That's your domain. Very simple, okay? So on the right, we're actually going to write our answer. What is the range of the map below? Okay, so range. You can use an R for range, or you can write like a Y if you want to. My range. And you have to know that my range are the Y values. So I just need to list my Y values. You do not repeat your range, you just write it from least to greatest. So I have -1, 0, and 2. -1, 0, and 2. That's my range there. Okay? So if you're given a table, or you're given points, or you're given a map, super simple. This gets a little more complicated when you're given a graph. Okay? So domain and range from graphs. So your domain is still your X values. That's still the same. But on a graph, it's from left to right. What is the furthest left point? What is the furthest right point? Range is still your Y values, but it is from bottom to top, or low to high, however you want to think of it. What's the lowest value? What's the highest value? And then you're also going to have open circles and closed circles. So remember, if you ever have an open circle on a graph, when they're writing their domain and range, they're going to give you a less than symbol or a greater than symbol with no line underneath it. If they give you a closed circle or anything else, even like a regular line, it's going to be greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. It has that line underneath it. So remember, no line is an open circle. Closed line is a closed circle or just a regular line. Okay? So let's look at these questions. What is the domain? I'm going to underline that. You should always be underlining your vocabulary. What is the domain of the function shown on the graph? So I know domain is X. I'm going to look through my answer choices. They all have X, so I can't eliminate any of those. So I know that domain is from left to right. So if I look over here, there's nothing going on over here until right here. This is the furthest left point that there is. And that starts, and that's probably kind of hard to see in your graph, but -1, -2, -3. It's also hard to see, but that's an open circle. These right here are open circles. So this right here is at -3. Okay? So I know it starts at -3. So these are not going to be correct. Okay? And then it keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, and then the furthest right the graph goes is right here, which is at +3. Both these have +3, so that's good. Now I gotta look at my open circles. So both of them are open circles, which means that there should be no line underneath my inequality signs. So on A, there is a line, and B, there isn't. So B would be the correct answer, because they're open circles. If these were closed circles, then A would be correct, but they're not. So B is the correct answer right there. Okay, from left to right, that would be the domain. Now let's look at this last one. The graph below shows the path of a golf ball. So you have a path of a golf ball here. What is the range of this function? What is the range? So I know that range means y. So look. I have y, I have y. Oh, that's x, I crossed it off immediately. That's x, I crossed it off immediately. So with me knowing nothing else and not even looking at my graph, I can narrow down 2 answer choices, and now I have a 50-50 shot here. So what is the range? Both of them say 0 to 100. And that makes sense because the lowest value here, remember range is from low to high, the lowest value here is at 0. That's the lowest this graph goes. And the highest this graph goes is at 100. So 0 to 100. Now, do you see any open circles on this graph? Any open circles? No, they are just a regular line. There's no like closed circles, but there's no open circles either. So it should have a line underneath it like these guys up here. So this would indicate that there are open circles and there are not. And this has the lines where there are no open circles. Okay? So domain and range, we go through those questions, and you either have it from a table or you have it from a graph. Just be careful how you do those. You have those all the release questions about domain and range. Always ask questions if you need to.